Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Saira Mujtaba and with me is Aditi Lumba, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. India will host the Delhi Regional Security Dialogue on Afghanistan on 10th of November. International Monetary Fund welcomes India's announcement on renewables and reducing carbon intensity at COP26 summit. WHO expresses grave concern over rising COVID-19 cases in Europe. External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, meets his New Zealand counterpart, Nanaia Mahuta, virtually. Discusses predicament of those stranded by travel restrictions. IFFI announces selection of 25 films to be screened at the Indian Panorama section in Goa. And in ICC T20 World Cup, India defeats Scotland by 9 wickets in Dubai. As India created history by administering 100 crore vaccine doses against COVID-19, All India Radio salutes all the doctors, nurses, frontline workers and all those who got vaccinated and made this possible. Even though the country has achieved this feat, we caution our listeners that the battle against COVID is not yet over. We appeal to our listeners to get fully vaccinated at the earliest and also help others get vaccinated. During the festive season, please follow these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. India will be hosting the Delhi Regional Security Dialogue on Afghanistan on the 10th of November. The meeting will be at the National Security Advisor level and India's NSA, Ajit Doval, will chair it. A report.
The upcoming meeting will be the 3rd meeting in the NSA format. The first was held in Iran in September of 2018 and the second also in Iran in December of 2019. The 3rd meeting was delayed due to the pandemic. The Central Asian countries as well as Russia and Iran have confirmed their participation in the meet. The enthusiastic response has been attributed to the importance attached to India's role in regional efforts to promote peace and security in Afghanistan. Former diplomat Ashok Sajjanhar, commenting on the invitation by India for the NSA-level talk, said that it signals a shift in India's approach towards the country. The invitations have been extended to China and Pakistan too, and formal responses are awaited. The high-level participation in next week's meeting hosted by India reflects the widespread and growing concern of regional countries about the situation in Afghanistan and their desire to consult and coordinate with each other. India as a neighbor has an important role to play in this process. Prashant Kumar Sinha for World News.
The International Monetary Fund has welcomed India's announcement at the COP26 summit on new targets to increase reliance on renewables and reduce carbon intensity of its economy, including to adopt a net zero target by 2070. Jerry Rice, Director, Communication Department at the IMF, told reporters at a news conference in Washington on Thursday that India's actions may help catalyze action in other emerging economies as well as in addressing climate change challenges. Earlier, welcoming India's announcements in Glasgow, Professor Lord Stern of Brentford of the London School of Economics and Political Science said that it was a very significant moment for the summit, with Prime Minister Modi pledging stronger action by India on climate change with 5 new targets. He added that the rich world must respond to Prime Minister Modi's pledge to deliver a strong increase in international climate finance.
Director General of the International Solar Alliance, Dr. Ajay Mathur ISA, said that interconnections at the intra- and inter-regional levels play a significant role in enabling decarbonization of energy systems. He said solar energy and other renewable sources in different time zones can amplify the impact. Dr. Mathur was speaking at the One Sun, One World, One Grid discussions on Friday. Also speaking at the discussions, India's Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Mr. Bhupendra Yadav, said that solar power is the ultimate solution to the global energy crisis. Last week, Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the One Sun, One World and One Grid initiative in Glasgow. He said that solar energy is totally clean and sustainable, and the challenge is that this energy is only available during daytime and depends on the weather. Mr. Modi also said that Indian Space Research Organisation ISRO will soon provide the world a solar power calculator application that can measure solar energy potential of any region across the globe. The UK government joined 38 international partners from 6 continents to welcome the establishment of the IFRS Foundation's new International Sustainability Standards Board, ISSB, at COP26 on Friday. The UK government, in a statement, said that finance ministers and the central bank governors from 38 jurisdictions from 6 continents joined the UK in publicly welcoming the announcement of the establishment of the ISSB and its work programme to develop a set of internationally consistent, high-quality and reliable baseline standards for the disclosure of sustainability-related information on enterprise value creation.
In Bangladesh, normal life was affected following nationwide indefinite transport strike against the hike in diesel prices. The countrywide transport strike commenced from today. Our Dhaka correspondent reports that roads in Dhaka city were empty as no local or long-distance buses, trucks and lorries plied in the city on Friday. Similar reports are being received from across the country from places like Nathur, Kumilla, Chattogram, Rajshahi, Pabna and many other towns of Bangladesh. The movement of imported goods from Chattogram port has been affected as entry of vehicles in the port was obstructed by the protesting people. However, smaller public transport vehicles like auto rickshaws, motorcycles and vans remained functional. Meanwhile, Road Transport and Bridges Minister Ubaidul Qadir urged the transport owners and organizations to call off the strike, considering the hardship faced by the common people. He told the media in Dhaka today that a meeting will be held at the Bangladesh Road Transport Authority office on Sunday over the revision of the transport fare. The Government of India has cut the basic duty on crude palm oil, crude soybean oil and crude sunflower oil from 2.5% to nil in a bid to rein in the continuous rise in cooking oil prices since past 1 year. Owing to the reduction, the total duty is 7.5% for crude palm oil and 5% for crude soybean oil and crude sunflower oil. To control prices of edible oils, the government has rationalized import duties on palm oil, sunflower oil and soybean oil. Futures trading in mustard oil on NCDEX has been suspended and stock limits have been imposed.
The World Health Organization, WHO, warned on Thursday that the rising number of cases of COVID-19 in Europe is of grave concern. WHO Europe Director Hans Kluge, in a press conference, said that the region could see another 500,000 deaths by early next year if the current pace of transmission persists. He added that the increases were observed across all age groups. He added that the relaxed prevention measures and low vaccination rates in some areas explain the latest surge. Germany reported a record 33,949 new daily cases on Thursday, according to the country's public health body. Meanwhile, WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus reported cases and deaths of COVID-19 are on the rise again. He also urged countries to put a moratorium on booster doses.
Most low-income countries are relying on COVAX, which has the money and the contracts to buy vaccines on their behalf. But manufacturers have not played their part. We still don't know when the manufacturers will deliver. We continue to call on all manufacturers to prioritize their contracts with COVAX and the Africa Vaccines Acquisition Trust, or AVAT. No more vaccines should go to countries that have already vaccinated more than 40% of their population until COVAX has the vaccines it needs to help other countries get there too. No more boosters should be administered except to immunocompromised people. Most countries with high vaccine coverage continue to ignore our call for a global moratorium on boosters.
External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, met his New Zealand counterpart, Nanaia Mahuta. In a tweet, Dr. Jaishankar said that he had a warm and productive virtual meeting with Ms. Mahuta. He added that the exchanges covered COVID response, climate change, Indo-Pacific and Commonwealth. Dr. Jaishankar also discussed the predicament of those stranded by travel restrictions. He added that the resumption of travel is central to economic and social recovery.
US President Joe Biden has announced 2 new policies to increase the rate of vaccination in the country. In a statement, the White House said that in the first step, employers with 100 or more employees are required to ensure each of their workers is fully vaccinated or test for COVID-19 on at least a weekly basis. The second policy states that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, at the Department of Health and Human Services is announcing the details of its requirement that healthcare workers at facilities participating in Medicare and Medicaid services are fully vaccinated. The rule applies to more than 17 million workers at approximately 76,000 healthcare facilities, including hospitals and long-term care facilities. More than 107 crore 74 lakh COVID-19 vaccine doses have been administered in India so far under the nationwide vaccination drive. The Health Ministry said over 5,65,000 doses were administered on Thursday. India reported more than 12,000 new cases in the last 24 hours. The ministry said the recovery rate is currently at 98.23% and it is the highest since March last year.
France and Britain on Thursday agreed to step up efforts to resolve a fishing row. French European Affairs Minister Clement Beaune said, however, that much remains to be done and all options are on the table should talks fail. The dispute is centred around the number of licenses London allocated to French boats in the wake of Britain's exit from the European Union. France says many are missing, while London says it is respecting the deal.
India's Minister of State for External Affairs V. Muralidharan has recently visited Gambia. During the visit, 2 agreements were signed. These include an agreement on exemption from visa requirement for holders of diplomatic and official passports and a general framework agreement for cooperation between India and Gambia. Based on Gambia's request, repurposing of a $5 lakh grant for procuring dialysis machines was also announced. Design of a commemorative stamp marking 75 years of India's independence was jointly released by Gambia's Foreign Minister, Dr. Mamadou Tangara, and Mr. Muralidharan. The Ministry of External Affairs has said that overall the visit set the tone for further diversifying and deepening India's bilateral relations with Gambia.
This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alert. In today's Hotspot section, we bring you discussion on the developments in Afghanistan and the upcoming NSA level meet being hosted by India. In conversation are Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, and Simran Sodhi, journalist.
Today we are discussing the situation in Afghanistan, and we have seen with the Taliban takeover in Afghanistan how the situation has rapidly changed and how the international community, including India, is very concerned with what we are seeing unfolding in Afghanistan. We also see that India has invited the regional national security advisors to Delhi for a meeting, and this invitation has also been extended to Pakistan's NSA Moeed Yusuf, which is quite a departure from the bilateral ties and the trust deficit we have seen between India and Pakistan, primarily due to the terrorism support that Pakistan has extended over years to the activities happening in India. Ambassador Sajjanhar, when you see this invite that Delhi has given to the regional national security advisors, how do you see this move, especially when we take cognizance of the fact that it includes Pakistan's NSA also?
Simran, I think that it's a very significant move forward. It's also a very bold move forward. And I think with this move, I would say that the wait and watch policy of India as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I think we are moving beyond that. Because as you've said very rightly, over the last 2 months, several developments have taken place in terms of how different countries are reacting and responding to the changes in Afghanistan. But one of the most significant outcomes of this has been that when Taliban took over Kabul and the whole country fell to it, it was expected that a large number of countries would very quickly recognize the Taliban dispensation and that they would be able to establish the government and they would be able to move forward. This has not happened, and for a variety of reasons. Because there were 3 countries that were really in the forefront. Pakistan, of course, which had been giving safe havens and been providing all the support to Taliban for the last 20 years. Also Qatar, which had been giving accommodation to the Doha political office of the Taliban, and then of course China, because just before 15th August, actually on 28th July, large Taliban delegation led by Mullah Ghani Baradar had visited Beijing, and there was a very well projected photograph of Wang Yi along with the Taliban delegation. So it was expected that these three countries would definitely be in the forefront of extending recognition to the Taliban dispensation. And then others like Russia, like Iran and Turkey, they would follow suit, and then this would build up a momentum. This has not happened, and the basic reason is that the commitments that have been given by the Taliban to the global community in terms of not allowing its territory to be used as a springboard for launching terror attacks against neighbors, also in terms of providing an inclusive government in which all ethnic minorities, etc., would be provided space, whether it is the Tajiks, who comprise about 30% of the population, or it is the Uzbeks, or it is the Shia Hazaras and others. Also, as fact as respect for women, providing political space to them also in the government and administration, that has not happened. So I think Taliban has been seen by the global community as retracting from its commitments that it had given, that what it had said that Taliban 2.0 is very different from the first Taliban that ruled the country from 1996 to 2001, and its definition of Sharia Islam and political Islam today is very different from what it was earlier. But that doesn't seem to be the case, because even as far as not exacting reprisals against those who had worked for the previous administrations, it has gone back on that as far as imposing the harshest of Sharia interpretation on women coming out of homes, working in the offices, going to schools, girls going to schools and to universities. So all this Taliban has been implementing very severely. So this has created huge doubts in the minds of people. So this is what is the development. And of course, the final denouement that you mentioned, that India has invited all NSAs of neighboring countries. I see that Turkmenistan has not been mentioned. Tajikistan and Uzbekistan have been mentioned. China, Russia and Pakistan have been mentioned. But Turkmenistan is not there. But I think it is quite significant that Pakistan's NSA Moeed Yusuf, that has been mentioned. There have been reports of back-channel discussions having taken place between the NSAs of India and Pakistan in the run-up to the signing of the ceasefire in February this year, and even more recently in April or so, when India was expected initially to have the first meeting of NSAs, but that could not take place because of the rapid evolution of and deterioration of the security situation in Afghanistan, and also the second wave of the coronavirus pandemic in India. But I think this is an indication that India wants to be engaged hands-on, and it wants to be a part of the solution going forward, and it doesn't want to be left watching from the sidelines. So I think this is going to be significant. Along with it, what is significant is India's participation in the Moscow format talks on the 20th
Ambassador Srijan, this is something, I wanted you to tell our listeners in a little bit more detail, that before the regional NSAs gather in Delhi for this meeting, do you feel that this puts India back in the game? Because we also saw that with the dynamics changing in Afghanistan so rapidly, we also saw that India had a stance where, and it still stands, that they do not want to recognize the Taliban and what they stand for. But do you think this might be the way out for India as it goes forward in dealing with the changes in Afghanistan?
So India is not alone in that it has not recognized. None of the other countries have also recognized. So I think we are moving forward forward, but this is a huge step forward as far as India is concerned, because so far India was dealing only with the Ashraf Ghani government, which President Ashraf Ghani himself left on the 15th of August and left the door completely open to the Taliban to come in and take over. Now, as far as engagement with the Taliban, we have not had any engagement with the Taliban so far, except, let's say, in 2018, in February, if my memory serves me correctly, when another Moscow format talks were held. We had sent two of our retired diplomats only with a listening brief that they would not have any conversation with the Taliban and they would not make any comments as far as the discussions are concerned. So after that, this is very rapid, very strong move forward. Of course, we are aware that the Taliban representative Sher Stanekzai, he had met our ambassador in Doha, Deepak Mittal, on the 1st of September. And they had a conversation, and India had quite clearly laid down its conditions and its concerns as far as launch of terrorist activities from Taliban-ruled Afghanistan is concerned, and the fact that people who want to leave Afghanistan, Indians and also Afghans, that they should be permitted, that they should be facilitated to do so. So I think this is a huge step forward, and it is a signal to the evolving situation, because I think India has also recognized that the Taliban is in Kabul. It is here to stay. It is we should start with operationally engaging them. You know, as the Prime Minister has said on a number of occasions, even at the SCO summit, that we should provide humanitarian assistance to the people of Afghanistan, also medical supplies and medical relief to the people of Afghanistan. And we have a very long civilizational connect with the people of Afghanistan. So this would be an forward movement in safeguarding and promoting our interests in that country.
With these comments, we end today's discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
In some more news, with the ongoing UN Climate Summit or the Conference of Parties COP26 in Glasgow, All India Radio brings to you a Ready Reckoner. Under the COP26 Explainer series, we shall bring for you daily the terms and concepts in use during the conference. Today we shall talk about carbon trade. Carbon trade is the buying and selling of credits that permit a company or entity to emit a certain amount of carbon dioxide. The carbon credits and trade are authorized by governments with the goal of gradually reducing overall carbon emissions. Carbon emissions trade originated at United Nations in a treaty called the Kyoto Protocol. It set the goal of reducing global carbon emissions and mitigating climate change from 2005. AIR News spoke to Namrata Mukherjee, an expert on renewable energy and climate policy, on carbon trade and how it works.
Carbon trading is a tested market mechanism for making polluters pay. It can help reduce pollution, increase job opportunities, and make the economy more energy efficient. Simultaneously, it can generate funds for clean energy transition. There are at least 45 countries in the world that have a carbon trading program. These programs put a cap on the total emissions in a region or system. The goal is simple: to make it expensive to emit carbon dioxide, and so companies and countries find ways to reduce their emissions. Else, they end up paying more.
The International Film Festival of India, or IFFI, has announced the selection of films for the Indian Panorama section to be screened during its 52nd edition in Goa. The festival is being organized by the Directorate of Film Festivals of India, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, in collaboration with Goa government from 20th to 28th of November. The selected films will be screened for all registered delegates and representatives during the 9-day-long film festival in Goa. A total of 25 feature films have been selected to be screened at IFFI. Selected from a wide pool of 221 contemporary Indian films, the package of feature films reflects the vibrancy and diversity of the Indian film industry. The feature film jury, comprising 12 members, was headed by acclaimed filmmaker and actor S.V. Rajendra Singh Babu. The primary aim of the Indian Panorama is to select feature and non-feature films of cinematic, thematic and aesthetic excellence for the promotion of Film Mart through the non-profit screening of these films under different categories. Since its inception, the Indian Panorama has been completely devoted to screening the best of Indian films of the year. In the T20 World Cup, India thrashed Scotland by 8 wickets in the Super 12 stage at Dubai International Stadium on Friday. Put into bat first, Scotland were bundled out at the paltry score of 85 runs by Indian bowlers as Mohammad Shami and Ravindra Jadeja scalped 3 wickets each, while Jasprit Bumrah took 2. In reply, India overhauled the target in just 6.3 overs, riding on KL Rahul's quick 50 off 19 balls. With this win, India moved to the third spot with 4 points in Group 2. Pacer Bumrah today became India's leading wicket-taker in men's T20 as he surpassed spinner Yuzvendra Chahal's tally of 63 wickets. In another match, New Zealand defeated Namibia by 52 at Sharjah. Put into bat first, New Zealand scored 163 for 4. In reply, Namibia could make 111 runs for 7 wickets. All India Radio is broadcasting ball-by-ball commentary of the World Cup matches.
Swedish pop sensation ABBA announced a comeback on Friday with their new album Voyage. The band, comprising Agneta, Jean and Benny and Annie Frid, have not released any new music since their split in 1982. The band, which gave hits such as Waterloo, Dancing Queen and Mamma Mia, released a new album Voyage. The album went live at midnight Thursday, nearly 40 years after they split up, with a digital avatar concert eventually planned in London.
The India Pavilion has successfully completed its first month at the Expo 2020 Dubai. The pavilion has witnessed over 2 lakh footfall by now. It also secured investment opportunities for the country and celebrated several cultural events to attract visitors. Commenting on the success of the India Pavilion, Dr. Aman Puri, Consul General of India in Dubai, said the month of October was a huge success for the India Pavilion. He expressed hope that the momentum to continue in the coming months will continue.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Guardian writes, family of the Chinese journalist jailed over COVID reporting say that he is close to death. The Guardian posts, luxury carbon consumption of top 1% threatens 1.5 degrees Celsius global heating limit. Financial Times reports, US job growth rebounds in October with widespread gains. Financial Times also reports Pfizer's COVID antiviral pill slashes hospitalization risk according to trials. Wall Street Journal writes schools to distribute COVID-19 shots in centers to vaccinate children. The Himalayan Times reports President Bidya Devi Bhandari has expressed confidence that the Nepalese New Year, Nepal Samvat, would further strengthen national unity by promoting mutual goodwill, tolerance and brotherhood. Tolo News Post, activists urge UN intervention in Myanmar, and Khaleej Times says heavy rains hail lash parts of UAE on Friday.
A quick look at the headlines once again. India will host Delhi Regional Security Dialogue on Afghanistan on 10th of November. International Monetary Fund welcomes India's announcement on renewables and reducing carbon intensity at COP26 summit. WHO expresses grave concern over rising COVID-19 cases in Europe. External Affairs Minister of India Dr. S. Jaishankar meets his New Zealand counterpart Nanaya Mahuta virtually, discusses the predicament of those stranded by travel restrictions. IFFI announces selection of 25 films to be screened at the Indian Panorama section in Goa. In ICC T20 World Cup, India defeats Scotland by 9 wickets in Dubai. India is celebrating the 152nd birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let's listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Slovenia. Vaishnav Jan so tene And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.